Good evening. I would like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026 to order. The time is now 7 p.m. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Beaton,
Dismissed tonight.
Councilmember Damon,
Here.
Councilmember Hudson,
Also excused.
Councilmember Oliver,
Here.
Councilmember Tercero,
Here.
Councilmember Vanderstoop,
Here.
Councilmember West.
Here. Thank you. Item 2 is the approval of tonight's council meeting agenda. Council, I'd entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor, second by Demi. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Okay. Item 3 is community comments. If you are here tonight to address City Council, we ask you to please come on up to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence. I'm going to ask you to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. We don't have the clock up here today. That doesn't mean it's unlimited time. We're keeping it at 3 minutes just to give everyone a chance to talk tonight. So I've got a timer here. I'll give you a heads up when there's about 30 seconds left or so, just so you are aware. Okay, welcome.
Thanks. Hi, Andrea. I live here in Mount Vernon. I am here tonight representing 430 people and counting in Mount Vernon and the surrounding areas who have signed this petition that we are here delivering to you this evening. Skagit DSA has spoken to hundreds of people over the last few months about flock safety. And we all feel the same. These people are from all walks of life that care about the privacy and safety of this community. We have also compiled 3 pages of community comments from people who've also signed this petition that we will be supplying for you tonight. Our demands are that you disable flock cameras immediately and cover them. We are also demanding that you not renew your contract with flock safety. We are aware of the claim that the contract does not expire until May 2027, and our demands remain the same. We are also demanding that you do not contract with any third-party ALPR system, including, Axon, Signal Trace, or Motorola Solutions, etc. Some of our concerns about flock: data sharing with police departments in Washington state that have been known to share their data with ICE and CBP. We are also seeing a staggering amount of reporting coming out over the last few weeks that this data is being used by police officers themselves to stalk people. Our data is shared with 50 other police departments in Washington, and we have no say what happens to our data once they've pulled search. We cannot opt out of other departments having unfettered access to our driving patterns, and not to mention some searches on the Mount Vernon Police database are still blank after months of requesting more transparency. Our state legislature has failed to protect us with the weak Driver Privacy Act, which legitimized warrantless surveillance of Washington state residents. Our freedom of movement is being compromised, and we are no longer to even grocery shop without creating a digital fingerprint of our movements. We did not sign any terms with Flock. We've asked City Council multiple times to stop tracking the citizens of Mount Vernon. And even after you cancel this contract, Flock will still have troves of our data that they will continue to sell, and we have no way of stopping it. Flock surveillance needs an extreme amount of data storage as it collects and stores every single car as it passes to train its AI system. This requires data centers, massive AWS AI hyperscale data centers, like the one council is considering putting a moratorium on, like the one Skagit County has put a moratorium on. But I would like to understand why the city of Walla Walla, who is getting a 500-acre AWS hyperscale data center, is supposed to bear this burden. Why are the children of Walla Walla supposed to bear the burden of the air, water, and noise pollution so that Mount Vernon PD can have an AI surveillance on this community? How are you advocating for this technology, but making the community on the other side of the state take on all of the things you are concerned about happening here in Mount Vernon, concerned enough to push for a moratorium? The evidence does not support the need for Flock. There is no independent proof that Flock actually reduces crime. Cities nationwide have installed these cameras, yet audits and studies show no clear sustained impact on crime trends. Flock has misread license plates, causing the wrong person to get arrested and detained, sometimes 4 months. Flock is a known bad actor. Their business practices raise serious concerns. As a rapidly expanding for-profit surveillance company, Flock is known for aggressive sales tactics that overstate claims and outright lies of effectiveness, and a business model that depends on collecting and retaining massive amounts of community data. When a company's financial incentives are tied to expanding surveillance rather than demonstrating real safety outcomes, the city should be cautious. The data sharing network is far broader than council realizes. Once collected, communities can be accessed by or sold to hundreds of agencies across the country. We have also learned that the FBI is buying our data from data brokers, which Flock is allowed to do per our contract with them. Mount Vernon is the largest city in the county and the county seat. It should be leading by example of how a city can prioritize the health and safety of its citizens by investing in infrastructure that has proven solutions, like housing, access to food, a library open 7 days a week and in the evenings, after-school activities, summer youth programs, and even trees to make walking outside possible during the hot summer months.
Andrea, can you do it in about 30 seconds? All right.
What is not investing in the health and safety of our community and the greater global community at large is using a mass surveillance AI technology to track its citizens' movements while exacerbating an already wrecked climate with a need for a larger and more powerful data centers. We, the people, are urging council to do the right thing and end the warrantless mass surveillance of the people of Skagit County. Thank you very much for listening to me.
You can give that to the clerk. She'll get it to us.
Take a look at this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Kitchen. My children have said they don't even want to read because this is so interesting. I wish that was my only comment. I live over by the high school. Thank you for your time and your commitment to public service on behalf of our amazing city, and thank you for taking time for public comment. I was recently shocked to discover what you already know, that we have 232 traffic cameras and 6 SWAT cameras that Mount Vernon taxpayers are paying $68,000 for surveillance. I'm here today to implore you to terminate the FLOT contract that is up for renewal. So let's talk about cost-benefit analysis. For these purposes, I will grant that the FLOT cameras may help us catch 2 serious criminals a year. Let's get really dramatic. Let's say they're murders. First, there is the actual cost of the contract. For $70,000, we could hire nearly 1 entry-level police officer. We could nearly fund Sundays at the library. We could put a significant dent in the cost of the iOS program. I would wager a guess that our excellent police force has solved many murder cases prior to Flock. So is the $70,000 worth the cost of 2 solved murder cases when there are other resources available to do the legwork? And in fact, other cameras to also track these criminals as well. If $70,000 is hard to come by, and I know it is because I work for the state, and there are so many positive places it could be invested into our community with a much larger positive net return, why are we settling for a return rate of 2 criminals and surveilling the entire population while we're at it? And if the technology has been exclusively used to apprehend a significant many more criminals, I would really appreciate seeing that data so I can make a better cost analysis myself. And then there's the cost of our citizens' liberty. Please note that I am not even discussing the fact that on nearly every street corner, there is surveillance. In fact, sadly, I would argue that Mount Vernon is conducting mass surveillance. My children are being mass surveilled by the city council, by the police department. But my even larger concern is where the SWAT information goes outside of our officials. I spent a long time carefully reading the Mount Vernon FLOT contract, and I am aghast at the level and number of ways this information can be disseminated. You too may be shocked at what we have signed up for. 2.1, FLOC may use the services of 1 or more third parties to deliver any part of the FLOC services. 2.4, FLOC may make any upgrades to the system or platform that it deems necessary or useful. 4.1 and 4.3, customer hereby grants FLOC to a limited, non-exclusive, yada, 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 worldwide license to use the customer data and to use and perform the services and regulated systems and technologies, including the training of machine learning algorithms and the right to use and distribute such data. So, FLOC can insert any outside parties they want, upgrade or change the system at any time for any reason, and they are using the data that we collect for training and other purposes, which opens a Pandora's box of opportunities for this to be used maliciously. So are we giving up our citizens, the nurses, the field day laborers, the mothers, even our own off-duty police officers and emergency officials to be used as fodder for who knows what big tech company wants to do? We are surveilling 6 intersections and paying to send that data back to the company. It's the illusion of it's the illusion of safety for the cost of privacy, for the sanctity of our community. And here's the ultimate cost-benefit analysis and the end. Is the trust, the dignity, and the psychological safety of your Mount Vernon constituents worth $70,000 and a few caught criminals? Because I can promise you, the use of the cameras does more to undermine your citizens' rights than it does to protect them. Please terminate the flock contract. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Yeah, come on in.
Gavin, live up in Alger. I've talked to you guys on Flock before about cybersecurity vulnerabilities, the general boogeyman, like very real boogeyman of mass surveillance, of the potential constitutional violations of mass surveillance, of the bad faith of Flock before. I'm going to skip all of that for now and just, because we've been asked to talk about Mount Vernon time and again about here. So I'm just going to review some data from the 2024 Crime in Washington report specific to Mount Vernon. I would have loved to give you the 2025 data so we could do a compare and contrast. That report's not published yet, so there is no comparison as of yet to tell you what the impact of Flock has been in Mount Vernon. I can tell you Mount Vernon has roughly 6 categories of crime that account for 86% of all crime. They are simple assaults, i.e. nobody got seriously hurt or injured, nobody brandished a weapon, larceny, theft, destruction of property, drug violations pertaining to narcotics and then equipment, burglary, and violation of no contact or orders of protection. They make up 86% of those. Of those 86%, 293 of the reported incidents were domestic violence. Domestic violence makes up roughly 46.5% of crime in Washington state as this is the category of crime that intersects all of them. So on the drug equipment, there's been a 143% increase in drug equipment violations between 2023 and 2024. That's a big increase. It's 92% for drug and narcotics. More than 80% of both of those categories for arrests is based around just possession or using and distributing. And so that's somebody has a pipe, somebody has weed, somebody has opiates, somebody has a narcotic on them, and they're stopped and it's investigated, they found, they get arrested. Mount Vernon already has, without Flock, a more than 90% arrest rate for drug narcotics violations. There are 257 out of 271 incidents reported, they get an arrest. They don't have a problem getting people for that. Drug equipment, there are 3 arrests per 143 incidences. Not great, but it also could just be it's not worth it to prosecute someone for having a pipe. Perfectly fine, not worth the arrest. Simple assaults, roughly half of them are accounted for by intimate partners, and 29% is intimate partners, 18.4% is family members, only 25% is a stranger. Almost all of these incidents, more than half, take place at a home or residence, meaning a Flock camera is not going to help you out. We know where the person is. An assault occurs like interpersonally and where you don't need surveillance technology to go figure out where that person is. They did it at home. The same thing happens for a lot of drugs. Motor vehicle thefts, which is actually a really good avenue where you think this would work. There's already been a more than 40% decrease in motor vehicle thefts and recovery. Per the Mount Vernon PD, they went from 106 to 60 incidents between 2023 and 2024. They didn't use Flock. Flock wasn't in the city until May of 2025. So we're already handling that problem, and that's the highest likelihood of escaping jurisdiction. Kidnapping, yeah. I'll finish with just the kidnapping aspect because that's the one that's been brought up a couple times at council. some of the kidnappings cited in previous meetings weren't solved using flock. They were solved using like Ring doorbells or other things that were just ancillary to it. And they happened before Mount Vernon had flock cameras. And finally, we went from 9 kidnappings to 6. We have four arrests made for the 6 kidnappings in 2024. We're doing okay. It could just be that the incident was reported and someone maybe didn't get taken. But Mount Vernon doesn't have a crime problem with things that needs flock cameras. It doesn't need surveillance technology to handle this, right? Flock's big appeal is that they can tell you if someone fled to Michigan. We don't have crimes primarily that flee the jurisdiction of Mount Vernon or even Skagit County. So there's not really there is no need to spend $70,000 a year for these flock cameras anymore. And you're putting a lot of violations on our privacy by doing so. Thanks.
Hi, my name is May. I live in unincorporated Skagit County. Flock, which you've heard a lot about, it's an extremely powerful and profitable mass surveillance system. Investigations by the Electronic Frontier Foundation and the ACLU have revealed patterns of abuse, including discriminatory searches, tracking of activists and protesters, and immigrant-related queries. These abuses stem from the infrastructure itself, not just how individual agencies are using the data. This may be because Flock's contradicting goals of becoming a $100 billion company and fully eradicating crime both rely on building a nationwide, interconnected surveillance network. There's also a disturbing pattern of Flock building relationships with mayors as a way to further their subscription goals. After Denver's City Council voted to end their relationship with the company, their mayor negotiated a 6-month contract extension for which no council approval was required. Another example is when Flock hired a sitting mayor of a California city to be a community engagement officer. This position, as advertised on Flock's career site, pays $100,000 to $140,000 per year with stock options and is intended to guide law enforcement customers through the public procurement process. Said mayor was terminated after refusing to use his authority as mayor to further Flock's sales goals. In addition, Flock offers webinars and other trainings to law enforcement agencies so that they can pitch the platform to their city councils and communities. A product that spoke for itself would not require these trainings. Flock doesn't only sell a subscription to its camera, there are also multiple options on their now publicly available pricing sheets showing line items for access to their national database only. These subscriptions range from $12,000 to $78,000 per year, a low price range for access to personal information from across the nation. The dragnet surveillance performed by Flock's ALPRs and other unsecured surveillance systems mean that we are all under constant warrantless surveillance. While short-term and targeted searches have been upheld by courts, prolonged aggregation of location data can create a mosaic of personal movements. Similar to tracking devices, collecting location data from the cameras constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment and should not be used in a criminal case when collecting without a warrant. Police departments have had multiple successes utilizing this technology. That's true, that's not a question. However, the burden of constant surveillance and threat of misused data paired with Flock Group Inc. doing business as Flock Securities, gross misrepresentation of the goods and services being sold must be carefully weighed. We are asking MVPD to commit to public safety through community-based policing, best practice investigative techniques, and more secure technology solutions. We are asking the city to enact measures to ensure the community input is taken into account before surveillance technology is considered, and that City Council approval be required before implementing any surveillance measures, regardless of the cost. We are asking you to prioritize community-based policing and constructive dialogue over the hateful and divisive rhetoric spread by Flock CEO Garrett Langley. The future of AI-powered surveillance is dependent on both public oversight and ethical corporate practices, and right now we have neither. Please turn off the Flock cameras.
Hello, Sam Irons, Mount Vernon. I wanted to thank you for keeping open communication regarding Flock and acknowledging the timeline of the contract. I hope you can keep an open mind listening to folks. Topics like mass surveillance brings up a lot of concerning realities to face. I want it on the record that I do not consent to Flock, and I do not consent to mass surveillance. I have spent time talking with council and the police chief already about my ever-growing concern that Flock data will be used to track people simply existing in our community. There have been multiple people abducted by federal agents in Mount Vernon, including in the last month, as recently as this week, frequently in their car getting to from work school appointments. I'm questioning how they are tracking people in our city, worried Flock data may be a contributing factor, as Flock data has been improperly accessed in various municipalities all across the country. Another main concern is that Flock is a for-profit business storing our personal data with another for-profit company, Amazon. The sheer volume of data being stored is contributing to rapid expansion of hyperscale data centers, also known as AI data centers. Flock and data centers cannot be separated. They are interconnected. If you are for Flock being in your town, then you are for data centers being there too. Also, very important, it is being interpreted that Flock is in violation of the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. The ACLU has put forth submissions to appeals court and articles regarding ALPR tech like Flock, saying it violates reasonable expectation to privacy. A recent ACLU article notes cities should beware of changes to Flock's legal terms, including Flock eliminating language that says they do not own or sell customer data, suggesting that they could or will do so with new contract language. Other concerning changes in terms and conditions include control over data, perpetual license of data and liability, termination and arbitration provisions. Also, I haven't heard how Flock is preventing crime. I would love to see money for Flock instead be invested to other public safety and community needs, like expanding library hours to provide safe space and cultivate positive connection and engagement. I urge you to turn off to cover Flock cameras and to not continue contract with Flock or any other ALPR company. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Hi, my name is Karen Russell, and I live in Mount Vernon. So I am a data analyst by trade, and I'm also here to speak about Flock. And really, after doing a bunch of research, the bottom line is that it's really just not worth it when you factor in all of the true costs and risks associated with this. As others have noted, there's endless privacy concerns and potential for abuse. It's a new technology that's rapidly evolving, and regulation isn't keeping up. It's suspicionless surveillance and location tracking, and unlike something like a home security camera, there's no way to opt out as a regular law-abiding citizen. I can't legally cover my license plate when I'm driving around town, and I can't just stop driving my car in a city that's as car-dependent as ours. To quote Chad Marlowe, Senior Policy Counsel, the idea of keeping a location dossier on every single person, just in case one of us turns out to be a criminal, is just about the most un-American approach to privacy that I can possibly imagine. These concerns are amplified by the fact that, as others have noted, we know we cannot trust this company. And those concerns will likely be true of any other company with this kind of technology. Mountain View, California had to shut down its Flock deployment after learning that Flock was quietly handing its data to outside agencies that it never signed off on. That's from an article published just this month. Not only that, Flock has a lookup tool that rakes in open source intel, public records, and whatever the dispatch system is holding, then hands you just one search bar to look through all of it. Flock actually floated loading this tool with breached data pulled off of the dark web, stolen personal data that they were perfectly comfortable with the idea of just like, hey, let's just throw this in there. So again, stolen data. The fact that they even consider that to begin with is a gigantic red flag. We also know, as others have noted, you can't always trust the end users. Even if we trust everyone currently on staff at the police department right now, you never know what's going to happen with a future hire. Not only that, there's the angle of the administrative burden and cost. As a data analyst, I know that data can be dangerous and data needs maintenance. So the question of public records retention, okay? Are these considered public records? Public dollars are paying for them. It's a massive amount of data that we'd have to maintain if so. If it's deleted, is the data really deleted? Because as we know, these companies, they'll say it's deleted. It's not really gone. In the system I manage, you delete it. It leaves the user interface. An admin can still access it on the back end. So do we actually know they're truly deleting what they say that they're required to delete per Washington state law? And if not, who's open to a lawsuit over that? Is it our city possibly? That's a lot more than $70,000. Not only that, once we're dependent on a vendor, they tend to raise their prices, as anyone with a Netflix subscription has probably experienced. Others have mentioned that as others have mentioned, the hardware does very little without the software backing it up. And again, that software is requiring hyperscale data centers. We've taken the excellent step of a moratorium here in Skagit County because we recognize the broad suite of risks they pose and harms they cause. Why are we inflicting that on other communities? So in the context of so many risks and harms, the payoff in terms of reduction of crime would have to be incredibly high. But in city after city nationwide, there's no evidence that it is. Per an article published last week, in Oakland, 293 ALPRs racked up over 638 million reads in 2025, but barely any of those actually flagged a real crime. The few crimes that were flagged were mostly stolen license plate alerts.
About 30 seconds.
All right. Overall, city and council members nationwide recognize the need to reassess how to balance crime-fighting tools with civil liberties and other community needs. So what Fort Collins is doing, the plan is to have a citizen volunteer board work alongside the police department to decide if they want a surveillance option going forward. And the city will not be allowed to accept bids for any similar system until they implement a comprehensive surveillance policy. The best data we have shows that meeting people's needs is what ends crime, not mass surveillance. Mount Vernon should join the over 45 cities that have recently canceled or chosen not to renew their flock contracts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address council?
Hi, I'm Harrison. I'm from Alger. Increasingly, there's kind of a general dread lingering over people at large. You know, national, international news, rising costs of everyday expenditures, growing oppressive build of climate change, and monetization of all aspects of society. More and more of our society views us as wallets, not people. Our data is collected, sold once, twice, more, and used to target us, to make us spend more money, and in some cases track and intimidate. The fact that I know I can't do daily essential activities in this city that I consider my home without having more data be collected and used by Flock contributes to the daily unease. Unlike most national or even state politicians, this council is made up of normal, ordinary, grounded people. I'm sure you can empathize and even commiserate with how rough it is just for ordinary people. And as people, we generally like to empower others. We like to make them feel happy, welcome, and appreciated. As representatives, your goal is to improve this city as the people want, to help them feel happy, welcome, and appreciated. An easy way to do that and help lift this curtain of malaise is to cover the cameras, not renew the contract, not employ any other ALPRs. This group of people today gathered to relay just how obstructive they find these devices. It would cost you nothing to let the contract lapse and would gain you the gratitude of many. We rally against Flock and companies like it that think of us not as people, but criminals or data, dollars to be traded like baseball cards. We look to our government to protect us, to safeguard us against those who would exploit us, and this is one of those moments. Please let the contract lapse and show that you're as committed to the people as we are committed to democracy. Thank you.
Thanks, Harrison.
Hi, I'm Nikki, live in Mount Vernon.
I just, you guys didn't just buy an AI surveillance when you bought Flock, you also sold out your constituents. But I just wanted to start with some questions. My hope is that you would like to also know the answers to these questions. I know you can't answer them right now. Do you know how many people have been kidnapped by ICE in Mount Vernon? I'm just wondering. I hope that you guys will figure this out because I know of at least 6 in the last 5 weeks. But I know there is more. Are you setting up any kind of trust in the community for those family members that have been affected, and so that they can feel even comfortable enough to ask for help or even try to find out directions and services that can be provided for them, because they are also getting charged like ridiculous amounts of money because of this big, beautiful bill. The amount in Mount Vernon setting up any, is Mount Vernon setting up any kind of fiscal impact report from ICE's activities? Some local businesses have had to shut down because of ICE raids. Rental assistance is needed when the sole breadwinner is detained. Effects of declining tourism and increased food insecurity has all been happening. Operation Metro Surge is estimated to have impacted Minneapolis fiscally in excess of $700 million. While Mount Vernon is not as large and has not been as severely targeted, it still has been targeted. Children are still coming home to their parents gone. Cars are being left on the side of the road with the windows smashed in, and families are being torn apart. Washington State has even had to create a special task force to protect children whose family members have been detained. I wonder how much that costs. Skagit Scoop recently just had an excellent article about how ICE has been in the county courthouse, a violation of Washington's Courts Open to All Act, and the need for more access to Zoom hearings. While I commend Mount Vernon municipal courts for being more prepared than the county and having all the Zoom, excuse me, sorry, lost my spot. Zoom hearings are allowed in the municipal, but the county is not doing so well with that. But this is also not the only occurrence of ICE breaking the law. They are still wearing masks. They are driving around with expired tags on their cars. They act above the law, and they do not identify themselves. ICE still has access to these Flock cameras information. So you guys do know that, right? They can just go to Flock and get the information from them. Even if our police department is bold enough to say, no, you can't get it from us, then they can just ask another police department that is willing to do their bidding and ask our police department. And since our police department doesn't even fill out the information anymore, we don't even know where that information is going. One tangential point I would like to make is this fascist regime in our administration is not just coming for immigrants. They are coming for trans people. They are coming for disabled people. Does that sound familiar to anyone? It sounds really familiar to me, and it's freaking me out. Okay, but why is the DOJ requesting Washington State voter rolls?
About 30 seconds.
Okay. The Postmaster General just today said that he would not deliver ballots in states that didn't comply with this. Why does Donald Trump keep calling Democrats Democrats? It's to dehumanize them. Why is the DOJ acting like Antifa is a real terrorist organization? It's to tackle dissent. Until you guys can see yourselves as perhaps some of your constituents as targets of this regime, you'll keep the status quo. I am hoping you can see Flock for what it truly is. It's a tool of this regime.
Alexander Millard from Anacortes. I didn't prepare any statement, but I just want to underscore that it's not just Mount Vernon citizens that you guys are selling the data to any federal agency that wants it. It's anyone from the county, anybody who comes through town. The Flock cameras are in very prominent locations, and it's not easy to just avoid them if you don't want your data sold to whoever wants it. So it's a big problem that is affecting more than just your town. Please cancel the contract.
Hello, Council. I am Jack, and I live in Mount Vernon. And I'm not here to talk about block, maybe a little bit. Mostly just I agree with everyone. They're all making good points. I don't really have anything else to add. The thing I'm actually going to talk about is the e-bike regulations. As in a ward meeting, I talked about how I ride my e-bike to work, so I can answer any questions council might have if they had any. The one thing about the bike regulations is that it all seems more or less good. I agree with pretty much everything in there. The little nitpicks that Andrew and Hannah had sound interesting. They seem like something to look into, but otherwise everything else sounds pretty good. I like the regulations.
Thanks, Jack. Anyone else? All right, I'm guessing there's no one in the other room. They could come over if they were there. I think they would be here. All right, we're going to close community comments then this time. All right, council, we're moving on to item 4. Tonight's consent agenda includes meeting minutes, payroll, claims, agreements, resolution, and some street closures for parks and downtown events for this summer. Would council like to move for adoption of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor and a second by Demi. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. We will move to item 5A, which is council member comments. Any council member comments this evening? Yes,
Yep.
Councilmember Dan.
First of all, I'd just like thank everybody that came, took time out of their evening to come in this nice 3 days of hot weather we're gonna have. But I appreciate y'all coming out and voicing your concerns, so. And the second thank you I had is last week we had our Award 3 meeting. So I'd like to the Fire Station 3 and Carrie for setting it all up. We had a great meeting. It's the ward meetings have been a lot of fun. We had a lot of people come out. They have great ideas. They have great insight. It's just been fun because it's hard, can't really interact, here at council. So it's been nice to be able to interact with the public at the ward meeting. So thank you everybody for coming, and we're going to continue to have them regularly. So thank you very much. Also, I just wanted to kind of put a shout out to everybody to thank you for your patience according to the bridge. I've heard some fun stories about how the backup, and just say thank you for your patience and for being kind. I know it's not going to be an easy road, but just appreciate you taking the time to go the other way, and remember to still go to West Side and do as much frequenting of the services and stuff that you can over there, please. So. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. What else? Yeah, Councilmember Oliver.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's always really great to see so many community members come out, so please stick around for the rest of the meeting, and I'd love to talk to y'all afterwards.
Okay. I will just add on the tail of the comments that we are going to be taking a look at this next week, right? Public Safety Committee is next Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday of the month, and at 6 o'clock here in council chambers, we have committee meetings each week, and Public Safety Committee on the agenda for this one. I think the only agenda item that will be on this one will be discussion of flock cameras and the flock camera contract. And so I think, I heard a lot of points made tonight. There were some questions. Some of those questions have been and concerns have been addressed by legislation. Some have not. And we're going to do our best to keep that list of concerns that were raised here tonight and in the past and address those and talk about those. This is not a simple topic for council to consider right now, for any of us to consider right now. It is a nuanced topic. It's not as easy as flock cameras catch bad guys, so leave them on. And we are considering all of the things that you've said tonight, that you've said in the past, and really weighing those, because there are some clear benefits to having flock cameras for public safety, and there are some concerns. And so we need answers. We're studying this, I think, all of us on our own. We need answers to some of the questions and concerns that you've raised, and we're hoping to to go there next Wednesday. So I know I probably just invited the entire city to come to council chambers next week, but it might be a good time, a good place to get some information and find out, you know, some of the why behind what we're doing and how we're moving forward with this decision. So thanks again for being here. For mayor's report tonight.
Can I actually say one thing before
Yes,
we move on?
please.
So I know that this isn't really exactly what council member comments are for, but I would love to make a motion to suspend the rules or whatever we got to do to amend the agenda tonight to add a flock discussion.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to discuss the flock contract. So discussion is open. Any discussion on that topic?
Do we want to vote on discussing flock first?
Yes, that's what you moved, right?
Yeah.
And Randy second, yeah. So is there any discussion on this motion before we vote on it? Okay, I would say that I would have some concerns that 2 council members are not present. And also a couple of other things. We've approved tonight's agenda. The agenda has been out since Friday of last week. So folks in the community have had an opportunity to look at the agenda, look at the action items on it, and make a decision as to whether or not they want to come here and comment on those items. And I believe that if we had discussion of flock cameras on the agenda, there may be more voices present here. So if we're trying to silence those voices or bypass that process, it's a way to get something through, but I would have concerns with that. Yeah.
Did you want to go first, Randy?
Yeah, so one, we have a quorum, and that's the only thing that really matters. It's not how large of a quorum. This isn't the supermajority that would be required for this discussion. And then also, one of the constituents is representing 490-something signatures. So I don't think that it's fair to say that we're really trying to squelch public discussion, if that's the case. And we do have a decent, I mean, you know, this is one of our larger, comparatively, discussions. So I think we do have the public input that we've been used to seeing. So just like to have that considered.
No question, you're within your right to power this through and get a vote before you study it. Anna?
I don't think that's fair. We've been discussing flock for months now. Community members were coming to us last year, and I know that even council members brought it up early on last year. So we've discussed it at countless meetings. I don't even know how many meetings we have. So I would like to take a vote on discussing flock in this meeting today.
Any other discussion, thoughts? Okay, seeing no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion passes, so we will discuss it. Moving that then to discussion item A, business, or we'll put it at the end of the agenda. All right, now we'll go to mayor's report unless there's another curveball. All right. City of Mount Vernon has officially launched 2 new citywide social media channels. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram now. Some of our residents know that city departments like Mount Vernon Police, fire, parks, library, they've had social media accounts for years, but there hasn't been a centralized source for general city communication for the city of Mount Vernon before. And the benefit of that is having centralized voice that's underscored. This need was underscored during the flood event last year. Having emergency information and other announcements available from this main city account is going to help us ensure consistency across all of our social media channels. We also wanted to let everyone know about the city's 4th of July celebration. It's been adjusted this year due to the bridge closure Still going to have a big fireworks show for our nation's 250th birthday. We're moving the viewing party, however, to the Riverwalk and the Riverwalk Plaza. So we can park downtown, either along the river, we can park in the parking garage. The roof of the garage is going to be closed for vehicles, but open to pedestrians. That would be a decent viewing spot up there. Bring lawn chairs. You can line the Riverwalk there. A band's going to be playing in the Riverwalk Plaza from 8 to 10. I was told Kona shaved ice will be on the site for some dessert, and we've got giveaways as well. So the 20-minute fireworks show will begin around 10 p.m. I was asked if Edgewater Park will still be open, and the answer is that it is, but the focus of the celebration this year is going to be on the downtown side. So you can still set up a lawn chair at Edgewater, you can still watch the fireworks there, but we are looking forward to the celebration returning to Edgewater next year, but our Parks Department has put together a pretty amazing party on this side of town for this year's 4th of July. And that is your mayor's report for June 24th, 2026. Thanks, Adam. On to new business. Item A is a bid award for the 2026 overlay program. And our capital projects manager, Frank Reinhardt, is going to lead us through this one. Frank.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Bringing to you tonight a recommendation to award and authorize the mayor to execute a public works contract with Miles Resources LLC for construction of the 2025 overlay project in the amount of $754,295.35. This project is being delivered as part of our pavement preservation program. Just to clarify the project name, because this tends to throw people, design for this project did begin in 2025. That's why 2025 is in the project name, but construction is in 2026. The project focuses primarily on a grind and thin overlay of the asphalt pavement of Old Highway 99 from near the intersection with Blackburn Road south to the intersection with Anderson Road. This work will also replace sidewalk crosswalk ramps with ramps that meet PROAG requirements where needed on the project, as well as restore street striping to both existing striping and a couple crosswalk additions across 99, where we already have designated crosswalks. In one case where we historically wiped out the crosswalk marking, we're restoring that at the same time. So we advertised it for bids during May of this year, advertising in both the Sketch Valley Herald as our newspaper of record, as well as the Daily Journal of Commerce. We opened bids on June 2nd. We got a total of 5 bidders on this project and got a fairly competitive bid set. And after reviewing both the bid documents as well as the required mandatory bidder responsibility criteria set up by the state of Washington, we determined that Miles Resources had given us the lowest responsive bid from a responsible bidder. And that is my recommendation to you this evening. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Frank? All right, would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor and second by Demi. Any more discussion?
Jump in.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Don't go
Thanks,
too
Frank.
far.
Okay.
Item B is a resolution for the city's 2027 to 2032 Transportation Improvement Program. Frank has this item as well. Frank.
Thank you very much. So typically, I don't do a long presentation for the tip at this stage of the game because you've heard me talk a lot about it over the last few months and such. However, circumstances do compel me this evening to go over for you the tip amendment process this evening, just as a refresher from earlier this week. So we are required by the RCW as a local transportation agency to adopt a 6-year transportation planning document. Our deadline for doing so is July 1st. And so consequently this evening, I am bringing a recommendation to you to approve a resolution to adopt the 2027-2032 TIP. As a result of recent events and whatnot, I just wanted to bring up that the tip is something that, due to the level of work that's involved in updating it, it's an annual update process. We started the update process in February and we get through to the end of June. So, but the tip can be amended during the year. We update it on an annual basis, but when circumstances arise during the year, there's also an ability to go back and make changes to the tip. Very often, reasons for doing that include the opportunities for funding that might come up during the year that weren't anticipated at the time. One of the circumstances that is most relevant to me as of yesterday is when the city engineer forgets that he said that he was going to put a project on the 2732 tip last November, and so plans on doing that as an amendment to make right that particular situation. So I will plan on bringing a tip amendment to you later on this year. My anticipation is to bring it in conjunction with some federal funding related modifications, probably in August of this year, to try and kind of package it all together. Please keep in mind that just like the adoption of the tip, we also have to do a public hearing process for a tip amendment and whatnot. So I will make sure that I have that advertised and be on your meeting schedule on probably the same way that we did it this time around, with one meeting being the public hearing process and then the following meeting bringing you the resolution on the amendment. But at least for right now, my recommendation for you this evening is to approve the resolution that was in your packet to adopt the 2027-2032 tip. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Questions about the transportation improvement? Brian?
Good.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So the first, I think it was the first one listed on here, was to add, and I know we've discussed this previously, but to add the lights and cameras to Colshan Trail. Can you remind us what that plan is?
So that is a pre-existing project. That's been our plan for a couple of years now, and it's actually a single project that has been broken into 4 parts. The first part was actually delivered back in 2020, 2021, and that was the segment of Colshan Trail that between where it intersects with 4th Street and on the west end and 18th on the east end. So that was kind of our first go around with that particular project, and when it was fairly successful in lighting up the very dark trail that exists there, we programmed the possibility for future projects and then pursued with the Skagit Council of Governments federal funding in order to fund those projects. The current project that's under design this year is the phase 3 of that. And that is located on the segment between the Colshan Trail intersection with LaVenture and 30th Street. And that project is under design right now for an anticipated construction in next year. And we've been awarded both federal design grants and construction grants for that. We have secured or been awarded federal design and construction grants for phases 2 and 4. And that's why you find them on the tip as they exist today, when those funds are anticipated to be available and obligated.
Other questions?
I just wish we could do it all soon. I can't wait for it to get done, and I don't want.
Council, this is resolution 1104, if you want a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Demi and a second by Navor. Any more discussion on the transportation improvement program? All in favor, say.
Can I actually ask one question? So, do you have like a date or timeline in mind of when the changes will happen? Or like when you'll bring the updates to us?
So what I'm thinking right now, I try and gather all my thoughts at the same time, and the event that I would expect to bring a tip update to you normally would be the second council meeting in August, because if the circumstances that I'm thinking about here, and I guess just to elaborate on those circumstances, I have put in a request for any extended obligation authority for the federal funding associated with the Riverside Drive Improvements 1 project that might be available. I say might because we have no idea if it is or not, and I won't find out until pretty much the last minute. But because if they tell us in August that that funding is awarded, that we then have about 4 weeks to fully obligate it. So I have to very, very quickly get a bunch of things done, both working with state local programs, but also making the changes to our tip accordingly. So that's the timing that I have in mind. What that would translate into is a public hearing, the first council meeting in August, with the resolution to adopt the tip amendment in the second meeting. If the extended obligation opportunity doesn't come to be, I don't think I would change my timing at that point in time, because a lot of these things that I've just described to you, I'm going to have to put in motion in anticipation of hopefully getting that funding. But the steps I have to take, like for instance, advertising for the public hearing, are going to have to happen before I know if there's any funding there. So that's why I think that I will keep that same timeline I just outlined for you, regardless of what happens with the Riverside funding.
Okay. If I can say one more thing. I do really wish we had more time, because I know we had a lot of public comment during the hearing about different crosswalks and making bike lanes and making the city more pedestrian friendly. So really, I wish we had more time to workshop those things. And we already have 250 plus cameras across the city. I really don't want to add them to the trail. So I don't know what other council members feel about that. But for me, if we could not add more cameras to the trail for all the future phases that we haven't done yet, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable with this.
Any other comments or questions?
I don't know. I mean, I get where you're coming from. But also, what happens if there is something that happens on the trail? And like, what if you were assaulted on the trail? You don't have any help. You don't have any assistance. Like, or if the kid gets assaulted, or I mean, how do you get the help for that? I mean, I understand both these, and I get that part. But it's also the same time, like, how do we provide safety for some people that are going to think, well, someone might be able to see it or help me. So I understand that too.
Yeah, and I totally understand wanting to have safety across the board everywhere in Mount Vernon, but to make sure that we don't have a single area of the city that isn't under surveillance. So if something happens there, it would get caught on camera. That just doesn't sit right with me. I know that things can happen anywhere. They can happen on the trail. They can happen on our streets. We just already have so many cameras, and I would like to be able to exist and walk around my community without being surveilled at every moment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Transportation Improvement Plan approval. Any more discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to say that there certainly is a privacy concern whenever we have cameras placed around our city, and but I also know that criminal elements will exploit areas that crimes can take place where there is no surveillance. And so I think that we do need to be careful about how we are weighing surveillance versus security of who's using those trails, those paths. We want to encourage more pedestrian activity. And if people feel like they can't be safe in those areas because they will get targeted in those areas, I think that is a real concern.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, the vote is to approve Resolution 1104. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for
Thank
your
you
work
very
on
much for
this.
your time.
We will move on to item C, which was added by council a little bit earlier. It is a discussion of flock cameras. Who wants to lead this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so again, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and sharing all your thoughts on flock cameras. I know that we've had dozens of other people at other meetings also come and talk about how they don't want flock cameras in the community. I don't think we've had a single person saying that they do want flock cameras, so that says a lot to me. I know that we could postpone a vote till next week or till next month or until May when the contract ends. I think we've seen enough from the community to see what they want. And I think we owe it to them to have this discussion and talk about whether or not we want to turn the cameras off.
And a reminder, that discussion's scheduled for next week. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say that I think that we're doing our fellow council members a disservice by not allowing them to weigh in on this. And I think that's a bit of political gamesmanship.
Sorry, go ahead, Nubor. That was just a reaction. Go ahead.
And I think that they certainly won't feel like they were allowed to be part of this discussion, so.
I agree. I think we should wait till next week when they can be here and we can discuss it and vote on it and move forward.
All right. Any other comments?
I think we still have.
Okay, well, I would like to make a motion that we turn off and cover all of our flock cameras that we have.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the city turn off flock cameras. Any discussion on this?
I will say, as council members, we all know the rules for council, and the way that I approach my absences, if I'm not here, I know that the council will, if they have a quorum, will do the work that they're supposed to do. So that's why, and it's not like we're stopping someone from being at this meeting, as far as I know. I think all council members were invited to attend. So if they have other priorities, as will I have other priorities at times, but business of the city has to continue.
That being said, one is surgically not available to come. And the other is at a conference trying to better our community. So
Good.
I think we shouldn't really talk about them in a disdain.
I didn't say disdain. I'm just saying they weren't stopped from attending, as someone alluded to earlier.
Anyways.
I'll reiterate, I really wanted to learn more, genuinely wanted to learn more about specifically big tech and concerns around that. I've been doing some research on that and am interested in learning more. I really don't want this vote to go down this way. I feel like this is just absolutely bypassing our democratic process of opening this up to the community. I know those of you who are opposed to flock cameras have let folks know that they could be here tonight, but the entire community has not been notified. They haven't been shown that this is an action item on tonight's agenda, and you're making a decision for them without their voice. That concerns me, along with the absence of nearly a third of your legislative body. So I'm not voting on it, right? So for what it's worth, yeah.
All of us up here have missed meetings before. This is all we're doing is we're voting on something as we just voted on 2 other things. Was it also inappropriate for us to vote on those things? That is the job of city council. That is what we are here for. We are voting based on what the community wants. We have already discussed this at so many other meetings. It has been on the agenda, I don't know how many times already. The community has been invited time and time again to discuss this with us, and I think they have.
I'm glad you brought up the other items on the agenda. The Transportation Improvement Program had 2 public hearings in which it was on the agenda. The entire community was notified and had the opportunity to speak on it. This is absolutely within your right to do. My question is, should you do it? Councilmember Tercero, did you have a question?
No, I was going to say that same thing, that the process was allowed to play out. And I think that is a huge difference rather than trying to exploit a weakness in the procedure there. And so I think that's a huge difference between taking advantage of a situation and utilizing the process to allow it to play out.
It has been brought up in past councils, and this council voted to keep them on, from what I recall. Okay, no more questions? No more comments? All right. The question on the floor is in favor of the city to shut down the flock cameras. Is that right? And
Yes, turn off flock cameras and cover them.
turn off and cover flock cameras is what you're voting on. A yay vote is to turn them off and cover them. A no vote is to just leave things as they are. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes. And for item 7, I will ask our city attorney to please call the mayor and city council into executive session.
I would ask the city council to now meet in executive session for a period of 15 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters relating to enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation, to which the city, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding such discussion is likely to result in either adverse legal or financial consequence to the city pursuant to RCW 4230-110 subsection 1I. So that would mean we would reconvene in 8:23. I'm doing my math correctly, and if that's correct. And no action after.
No action after. All right. That's the end of our agenda this evening and the end of our Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. The time is now 8:08 p.m.